Yay! Time for another episode of the self-reliant creative process. And we're getting close to the end, and that almost makes me sad. But it also makes me glad because I hope by now we've covered enough ground that you've gotten some benefit, and actually I've gotten some benefit. I was thinking before I turned the camera on that it's a little ironic that I've been teaching this to clients for the better part of 10 years. But it was like putting the videos together for you has allowed me to review the whole process of the creative process. And like certain things really stand out for me. And I mentioned in the last episode that when we are current with projects and responsibilities, when opportunity comes calling, we will be ready. But when we're always behind, always playing catch up, our mindset is constantly scattered. And we can't suspend the current activity going on because there are inherent consequences. And so we can't engage in other options. But when we keep our task list caught up and reviewed regularly, advantageous scenarios come find us. And it started to get me reviewing my own life, my own creative process. See, we're all going to get to a point where more of life is going to be out the rear view mirror than out the front windshield. And in looking back at my life, I realized that I had periods of fabulous creative expression and work. I wrote my first book when I was in my mid-20s. My Vital Mind and Vital Body courses, the first versions of them I had together in my 30s. I had a facility called the Gymnasia in Southern California for a number of years, where I had my own little gym and place to work with people. And I see that throughout my life I had these wonderful periods. But what about the periods in between? What happened then? And what happened during those times? And when I look back, I realized that my life did not support the creative process because I wasn't current and because I wasn't willing to maintain a level of daily discipline and structure. So I would have periods of amazing exploration and wonderful stuff would come of it, but I couldn't sustain it. And as I'm reviewing these videos, sort of as a listener myself, I realized that when I got my life to the point that I got current, that changed everything. When I got my life to the point that I kept my task and vision well connected, that changed everything. And a client once said to me that once they recognized the importance of getting and staying current and spending the better part of a year to arrive there, I think it took me about 3, honestly. New opportunities fell into their lap. Some were always there, but they didn't see them because they were overwhelmed and constantly behind and never in a sustainable flow. So they reorganized their daily life and took better care of their mind and their body and their home and possessions and customers and relationships, and it all started to come together. So the creative process is about many things, but it's really a lifestyle. And there's some adjustments that each of us have to make. But if you're really committed to what's inside of you and you really want to get it out and you want to share it with people, I sincerely hope that you consider following the guidelines and the Venn diagrams that go with them, or come up with your own. But have something so that you can move forward with a sense of confidence and assuredness every single day. So thanks for that. Now let's get on to the next topic point, which is choosing the low-hanging fruit. So when we're accomplishing our tasks, it sometimes helps to get started with each day or cycle of activity by first going after some low-hanging fruit or the easiest point of engagement. Most people prefer easing into the day. We start off with a cup of coffee and, just like ease in. It's nice. And it's the same with the task list. But easy and quick tasks, which is basically the low-hanging fruit, that's what gets us engaged and starting to generate momentum. And then we re-engage that flow. And this is especially helpful if we have problems with motivation, like we ate a bowl of attitudes for breakfast, or if our focus, say, for example, appears fuzzy. Something else I mentioned earlier about the whiteboard. There's a way of tracking, what I'm doing, what's going on. And I remember once Andy came and visited me. And of course, I was very proud to show him my whiteboard and all the things on it, what I was doing. And he wasn't really all that impressed. I think he's at a point with the process that he's got it all in his head and he's been doing it for so long. But nonetheless, I had 4 or 5 things on the list for that day. And he noticed that I was erasing them as I was completing them. And he instead crosses them off, puts a line through them. Because after he's done 2 or 3 things, when he does use a whiteboard, that is, he can see that he's done something where I erased and I would forget that I did something. And I was now focused on, well, there's all this other stuff to do. So it's a little thing, but I needed to see my accomplishments throughout the day. And that is what each of us want to figure out for ourselves, about ourselves, so we can make it easy and comfortable and we can see where we're going. Because if we don't know where we're going, any road will get us there. Also, try to accomplish what gives you the most anxiety first or early in the day. If you have an important item to handle, it's really good to get it out of the way, because otherwise you're diverting energy and focus all day long. It's sort of running back there. Oh, I got this to do. I got to make that phone call. And it can get in the way of your flow for the day. And other matters may take more time, but those with emotional investment, they take more energy. And we start rationalizing about why we didn't do them. And if we can suck it up and say, this is an important thing, I just need to take care of it and take care of it, goes a long way. And so does monitoring your energy level and your emotional state and your self-care. Because at your sharpest and your strongest, you want to focus on what's important. And you want to know the most important work of your day, of your project, of this vision you have. And maybe when you're kind of so-so, focus more on your daily service, like the dishes or cleaning up or daily admin, answering emails, those kinds of activities. And realize that inevitably your personal process, how you're doing, and or your life experiences, they're going to interfere at times and they're going to impact your immediate focus. So it's good to know when you're on your A game, when you're not on your A game, and when your commitment level wavers and your focus drifts, because this is the great time to go after that low-hanging fruit to get you re-engaged and restarted. And I mentioned earlier in an episode about the idea that I don't like to use the word chores. Not a good word. Service. Service is the word because it's powerful and it applies turning ourselves over to the higher cause of care of our body and our environment and our needs and of those in our lives. And for me, developing the strategy of doing an hour of daily service a day or some equivalent. So I'm either making food or I'm harvesting vegetables or I'm practicing the guitar or I'm doing those things, something, so they don't all fall behind. because there's this real ebb and flow about managing life and then being able to step into this amazing project that you've got going, and then back and forth. And sometimes if life takes over, for me, I just need to spend 10 minutes at the piano working on some little composition. I mean, we don't have an hour or the day or what have you, but I've got to try to make 10 minutes to keep my fingers and my mind and all of that connected to it. That's just an important thing for me. And I think the functions, getting back to that task list, is you want to use your list to assign your priorities and manage your time, energy, and resources, and identify the sequencing of events. So you're clear and you're measured and you're considered going forward. So once underway, further clarity of our vision may result in redoing work. And sometimes we change directions in midstream, and can't be avoided because we now have new information. But if we're prepared and we're doing the right time on task, we'll be able to shift gears easier, more quickly, and with less consequence. One other thing is, I've been working with this material for a long time, and some clients have been as well, and we see it imbuing itself throughout life in many different ways, and I try to make life examples in the videos as relates to the guideline or as relates to the Venn diagrams. And I want to mention something about meetings, business meetings in particular, because they do tend to involve people competing for power and resources and approval, and maybe playing it safe and being careful to take credit and avoiding blame. And when I've talked to Andy about that, and he engages in a lot more of these business meetings than I do, he talks about engaging people in the subject matter in a way to create ideas from them, get them thinking. And so very little is off limits. Now, there's a lot of transparency when you work with Andy, and there's a lot of accountability also, but there's a great freedom because he knows the landscape ahead of time, but refrains from constantly directing the conversation, instead asking a lot of questions to create this sort of visceral excitement that transcends simply affirming employees for their value and participation. He's giving them permission. And when people feel permission to speak and think freely, that's when magic happens. See, he's putting them in the creative process, and he's observing everyone's fit into the bigger picture individually and collectively. And this goes back to the very first guideline, which is suspending judgment. And it's amazing how many times he has told me that he went into a meeting not sure about the outcome of this and this and this, and it all presented itself. And all he had to do was set up the structure, but get out of the way. So that means it's time for a little homework. Don't you love homework? It's good for you. All right, so today's homework is, what's the low-hanging fruit for you? And given what you know about the creative process now, having watched all these videos, how does your life really overall support it? And what do you got to do to get current with things? Or some things, or current enough that it starts to make a difference. Psychology calls this the just noticeable differences. Like if we increase the temperature in this room that I'm in right now, a degree and a degree and a degree and a degree slowly, at some point I would notice a difference and say, wow, it's hot. It's that idea. It's incremental change. Where can you make the incremental change? So consider that. And please like and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that. And I want you to have a wonderful day and a wonderful life. Thanks for watching.